By the way, guys, a little bit of news out of the NBA.
Let's go.
You guys saw, those of you that watched Denver, Minnesota, Game 2 last night.
Sure.
In frustration, Jamal Murray threw both a towel and a heat pad onto the court. He threw the heat pad into live action, in the key where there was a play going on. Big deal. Per Shams Charania, he has the NBA has fined Jamal Murray $100,000.
Oh,
he will not be suspended, but $100,000 fine to Jamal Murray.
I mean,
wow, that's a big number.
Well,
Draymond doesn't get that number.
Draymond gets 90 days behind bars.
Well, okay.
But Draymond's immediately arrested and charged with assault and battery.
You're saying if he does that.
Correct.
I'm saying for the stuff that Draymond has done, they don't fine him $100K.
No, he should be suspended for that. That is the kind of thing that is endangering everybody on the court. He threw a heating pad. That's basically the size of a loaf of bread.
I love when you turn into dad.
This is the kind of thing.
No, but you really should hear yourself. It's fun.
I mean, he threw a heating pad.
Yeah,
somebody could have gotten hurt.
Somebody could have slipped and absolutely damaged the bone.
They could have tore up an ankle or ligament. I don't know what we're doing anymore, and nobody defends the officials more than I do, but how is Michael Malone able to barge onto the court in the middle of live action and all but choke the official Mark Davis with both of his hands, and he doesn't even receive a technical foul?
Well, officials should.
What are we doing?
Officials should be choked. All of them.
Mark, what are we doing? Did you see that? You saw that last night.
I saw all of this stuff last night. Yeah.
I mean, he came out of nowhere, Michael Malone.
I mean, they were clearly, look at their behavior. They were beyond embarrassed.
Dude,
they were beyond.
Act like you've won a championship before.
No doubt.
You're the defending champions, Denver.
Yep.
Do you even remember when you were the preeminent team in the association?
Well,
not 11 months ago. And I get it. Minnesota's taking you apart.
Oh, the dynasty that's in their head is crumbling as we speak.
It's over.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they're acting, they might lose this game in 3.
Huh.
They might just not show. They might lose Game 3 in Minnesota and just go home.
They might get swept.
They are an embarrassment.
No. They really, really, really might get swept. And Minnesota is impressive.
They are.
They are impressive. I mean, it was not that long ago that we sat here on this show and talked about if this Minnesota thing doesn't go right, watch out.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns is going to be available. Well, he won't be available until after the parade because that's the way it looks right now. No,
Cat's going nowhere.
Long way to go. Long way to go, and Boston might have a thing or two to say about it. But in every championship run, there's some things that either A, you do that are really impressive, and then B, some things sort of twist your way. And the Kristaps Porzingis thing combined with their play over these last 2 games in Denver, that's the place where you can't win. Rocky, Adrian, you can't win.
Totally.
They did it twice, and on the second one, when Denver is got to have it, they come out and they're up by 30 the whole night. That was the stunning game of the year. It does bring up an interesting conversation, by the way, and Lucas was batting this around earlier. Like the Minnesota Timberwolves, let's spotlight them for a second and then transfer it over to what it may or may not mean for the Golden State Warriors. Forget about Cat being available or not. It's not about that. It's about the making of a champion. How do you go about doing it? You could make a very easy argument, and I have through very often, the number of times in the history of the NBA that you can concoct a championship, let's just get it all together and win it. At least in somewhat recent years, the 2 examples that work the best are LeBron to the Heat, LeBron and Bosh to the Heat, and Garnett to the Celtics.
And Ray Allen and Paul Pierce,
However, even those had at least one homegrown star. Paul Pierce, Dwayne Wade. Even those. So largely, if you want to win in the NBA, you got to have your people. You got to have some homegrown. You've got to build towards something. You've got to have some continuity that comes together. Look at the Nuggets. Look what Boston, who's going to win this year? It's probably going to be Boston or Minnesota. Those would be the odds on right now, as of the moment. Both of them are very, very homegrown. You're going to like throw some pieces in there, but like your cores are homegrown. So how about the idea of the Golden State Warriors essentially giving up about everything that's homegrown that could be a part of their future in an effort to maximize these last 2 years for Steph Curry and Draymond Green?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. One is you're giving up your homegrown core, which could be a homegrown core that can win you a championship, or you're giving up your homegrown core who are players who you don't think can be core pieces to an eventual championship. So if that's the way you look at it, if you don't think that Moody and Kuminga and TJD and the Poughkeepsie kid,
yes.
if you don't think that they can be core members of a championship team, then you're really not giving up core members of a championship team in order to get veterans. You're giving up good players to go all in the Steph Curry window. So there's two ways to look at it. And the other piece of it is, okay, so you keep your young guys, and they're not good enough soon enough. And Steph, Clay, and Dre, they leave whenever they leave. Clay might be gone in 2 months, and the other guys are gone whenever. You don't really have a lot of draft capital. You're going to lose your pick this year, and next year your pick will probably be in the teens. If Steph is here and Draymond's here and the kids get a little bit better and you're a 46 win team, maybe you stagger into the playoffs and you're a first-round loser, and now you're picking 15, and then one more year of Steph, we're going to try one more time, and then you're picking 16. You're not going to get better anyway unless you get really, really bad. And you're not going to be really, really bad with Steph.
You have a point. I think this is actually maybe more about the picks than it is about the Jonathan Kumingas of the world or the Podolskis.
Right.
Like, I do think it's a little bit more about the picks because,
Podziemski.
well, we sit here right now and assume, well, Steph is here, so that pick's going to be 16. Right. Or Steph could get hurt and you could get the number 2 overall pick in the draft. It's happened before.
Yeah.
It's literally happened before. And I think that one fair thing to discuss is the idea of even relying on older players you still like. This is a fair conversation now. I still like Steph Curry. I still think Draymond Green affects winning. However, they're also moving into a space in their career where it starts to, the likelihood increases big time that they are not going to be able to play a full season. We sit here and do that. If Draymond hadn't been suspended, well, then what? What would have happened? Would they have won 3 more, 4 more? Would they have been ousted by Minnesota in 4 rather than simply being ousted in 1 by the Sacramento Kings? If he had played all those games, would he have stayed healthy? The guy's got back problems, for crying out loud. He had to miss some games down the stretch. The Warriors were largely lucky with their older players and how healthy they were able to stay. Are you going to roll the dice and bet that they're going to do it again next year? Like, I sort of think the Warriors may not have a choice here. I've already been on record. I'd rather lose than trade Steph Curry. So this is about Steph to a certain degree. It doesn't mean he runs the show. But as long as he's here, you sort of only have one choice in terms of how you want to go about it. Then again, you could present a lot of different things the same way. The Warriors have already started the process of acting like keeping the big 3 together means they're trying to win a ring. And that's absurd.
Well, it just led to them winning a ring 23 months ago.
Right. And those 23 months are starting to feel longer and longer ago.
Especially when you look around the Western Conference and you look at these 4 teams that are still playing, and especially what Minnesota's doing to Denver, they're making the Joker look kind of like a joke.
And those teams are getting further and further away.
Right.
Like I'm sorry, Steph, Clay, and Dre are not beating those teams. I don't think that it means that those guys can't be on your team, but there better be some other really effective 20-point per night type people on your team if you want to still have all 3 of those on your team. And I don't know if that's even possible.
I thought you were going to say 20-something-year-old people.
That too.
Because I look at Anthony Edwards with Minnesota, and it's like, my God, he is so young and explosive, and he's unstoppable right now.
He right now looks like the guy.
And
that's the guy.
Just the speed, and Gilgeous-Alexander, the same thing, the speed with which he plays. And you look at the Warriors, and they're older and slower. How are you going to contend with that?
Okay, we're going to play something for you from Brian Geltzeiler. He is with Sirius XM NBA Radio. Steiny's got a crush on him, so that's fun. And he came on with Steiny and Good today and had some really interesting things to say. We'd love to throw it out to you at 888-957-9570. And it is essentially this question. Are you willing to move youth or not? Are you willing to move draft picks or not? So Steph Curry, we know that everybody wants to maximize the remainder of the career, but to what level does it shake your nerves that the Warriors might mortgage their entire future for whatever is left of Steph Curry? And even if they were to win, let's get stupid for a sec. Let's have fantasy party. Let's act like the Warriors and Steph have another ring in them. How much is that worth to you if I told you that it would also bring with it potentially as much as a decade-long struggle post-Steph to be good? Is that a trade you would make?
To get one more bite of the sweet, sweet apple.
One more ring, one more parade, and then a retirement and a decade of indifference.
It's worth it for me.
It is.
Absolutely. Because the counter is, okay, so you don't go all in, and you kind of let the Steph, Clay, and Dre era end the way it looks like it's going to with, you're a 10 seed, and you're a 9 seed, you're an 11 seed, you're a 10 seed, and Steph retires, and we all cry, and Draymond leaves and goes and acts as a Pistons, and Clay's off to Orlando this summer, and you turn around after three more years of Steph or whatever it is, and Steve leaves, and Steph is gone, and you're left with this core. This core is not going to be good enough to win a championship without, really getting lucky in the draft or finding the free agent to come in. And even at that, I don't think that you're going to be able to resurrect this and turn it into a championship team anyway. So give me one more run.
Brian Geltzeiler, NBA, Sirius XM NBA Radio. Listen to what he says about the idea of parting with youth.
Where are you if you go and you trade Kuminga and Podziemski in a deal to bring in Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant at 36 shows he can't hold up physically anymore. Listen, Durant had a great year. But my point is that older players come with risk. Miami's out of the playoffs right now because Jimmy Butler couldn't even compete in that Boston series because he was all banged up. Okay, Dame Lillard played how many games against Indiana at his age at 34 years old? Right, guys get older and they get hurt. And they can't necessarily play. Younger players seem to stay healthier.
Okay, that's obvious. Let's let him get loose on this a little bit more.
Listen, you have risk as it is. You turn around and pony up some of your young players for vets that you think have star power and can carry you to win in the playoffs. You already have guys that can win in the playoffs. What you need are guys to get you to the playoffs and be in an advantageous situation. And I do think, when you look at Kuminga and Podziemski in particular, I think both of these kids are not, they both can get better next year. They're not going to be the same players next year. They're both hardworking kids. They both improved. Kuminga's got a crap ton of confidence. And I love that about him. I really do. I think in some ways you have to be patient. Do you want to tweak things around the margins a little bit? You want to tell me you can use CP3's contract and a future first to bring in an extra rotation guy, an extra salaried guy that'll help you, maybe a little more size? I wouldn't argue with that. You want to tell me you use CP3's contract to bring in a guy like Clint Capella and give you a little bit of a different dimension inside with a veteran player? No argument.
Right.
But it cannot cost you, any of your 4 young guys right now, including Moses Moody.
I mean, the guys have such a crush on him. Do you hear the noises they're making as he's talking? Yeah, man, it's like they dove into a perfect short rib with mashed potatoes or something.
Sounds like me when I get that one slice of pizza a week.
I'm going to eat it. Brian Geltzeiler, man.
Steiny said that's who he would have introduce him to the Hall of Fame.
No, it's a full-blown man crush.